Hi, Advisory Board Nation. This is Tom Adams, and I want to welcome you to the Advisory Board Insider podcast. Today, you're in for a ride, a wild and unexpected ride with Dr. John O'Dwyer. John is an adjunct professor and the executive in residence at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. He's professor of Rotman's most loved elective MBA course, Getting It Done. Over the past 30 years, John's professional career has spanned financial, HR, operational management areas, and has also been a president, CEO, and business owner. John is currently a partner with Strategic Advisory International, a management consulting firm that focuses on providing client organizations with management tools that enable them to transform their winning strategies into genuine results. On top of that, John is an interesting character. My goal on this podcast is to introduce you to people and perspectives in the advisory board space, advisors that take all shapes and styles. And today you'll experience a style in Dr. John that is uninhibited, honest, in your face, and because of that, very refreshing. He calls it like it is. He tells it like it is. And you're going to get his full expression of that on today's episode. So buckle up. You're about to go on a wild and crazy ride. Here we go. Dr. John O'Dwyer, welcome to the Advisory Board Insider Podcast. I'm glad you're here.
Okay, now hold on. It's my going back to 2000 and Fast Company personal branding is Doc John, and it was a joke more than anything else. I have a PhD, but I'm not a proper doctor.
Okay, so we're calling you either Doc John or John. So
yes, okay.
All right. So shall I start again?
No, that's okay. I just, there's people who are proper doctors. I'm not.
Right. All right. You're just a PhD with a whole lot of other credentials behind your name, which we'll get to. But let's start with, what are your geographic coordinates today? Where are you located?
Well, actually, I'm in, I would say, Mimico, which is a small little village of Toronto. And looking out my window, well, actually, we got the smoke thing here. Normally, I can see the CN Tower, but the smoke's in today. But I'm at about 12 kilometers, whatever that is in miles,
right,
from downtown Toronto.
Okay, so Toronto is the major coordinate, but you're in a tiny little or part of Toronto, which is no longer little and tiny. It's a massive global city, which I know from reading through some of your stuff that you really like Toronto. Toronto's a real city that you have fallen in love with.
And actually, you say it quite right, because so I met my wife at Western. She has a proper PhD.
Oh.
Industrial and organizational psychology. Okay. My one's just in management, and we could get into that if you wanted to, but probably not. I'd piss off too many profs. But when I actually had a green card for the US at the same time, and I wanted to go to Boston. But my wife, Kathy, has her sister here. She's going to Toronto. And so it wasn't my first choice, but actually it's changed in the time. We moved here in 93, 94, and it has changed dramatically. I say to people all the time, Toronto is the most multicultural city in the world that works. We're not perfect, but you come to Toronto, and we got little everything, little Italy, little India, little Pakistan, little Greece, little whatever, it is the most multicultural city in the world, and it works. And we're on the lake. It's a beautiful location.
Yeah, it's a great city, and I lived there many years ago, and I have great memories of Toronto, and so it's good to know where you're located, but you're obviously not Canadian. There is a little bit of a accent brewing beneath the surface, so we'll get to that in a moment. But as we normally do on this podcast, I always like to figure out what the morning drink of choice is. So, what's your morning drink of choice, John?
And I have it in the cup, but actually I'm not supporting that one. They're way overpriced, but coffee.
Coffee. And so, are you kind of a snob about coffee, or do you just take what comes out of the
Oh,
drip machine, or you pour over, or
uh,
what's your thing?
I had an espresso machine and actually gave it to my niece. I now have a Keurig machine because I can get the cheap junk from Walmart or from Costco. Because I'm not fussy about my coffee. I apologize.
Got it. Okay. And just to round out who you are, because I feel like we're going to have an interesting conversation. But what's a typical morning look like for you? So either before you get the coffee, do you start with the coffee and then jump into life, or do you have this routine in the morning and then coffee comes after? What's an average morning look like for you?
You see, if I go look at the last week, I was Monday and Tuesday, I was volunteering for a nonprofit, right? I'm a sort of a surrogate senior leadership team member. We're doing strategic planning, and I volunteer for them at Windmill Micro Lending. They support new immigrants.
Oh, cool.
They go from potential prosperity, give loans to people so they can uh, get their accreditation. People coming in that are professionals. So it's potential prosperity for the individual, but also for the country. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm.
So
Yep.
those 2 days, no, I was there, and they actually buy me a coffee. Okay, I get paid. I actually did get paid. I have to put that coffee and they bought me lunch as well. I had to put that on my
Oh,
tax return,
I
but
think that's a
I
tax
don't get
return
charged.
item.
See?
Yes.
And then Wednesday, yeah, it was. I get up and I turn the machine on. It's not on all the time. I come to this computer here, hit the button, wait for it to wake up and get in, and then usually spend about 10 minutes getting rid of 100 junk emails
Got it.
before I get to the regular ones. And at that stage, the coffee is ready, and then I get to work. But then yesterday, Thursday, I was doing a gig with my colleague, my teaching colleague, for Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, where we're doing in-house training. So
Mm.
again, I was down there for 7:30. So no,
So you don't seem to have an average day, and I
oh,
got that sense just by reading your LinkedIn profile, your bio, just trying to follow you around the world a little bit, and there seems nothing ordinary about you. So I can't imagine you have an ordinary day. So well, that's good to know. But let's jump in, because I always like to explore where you came from, and we already alluded to the fact that you're Irish. But take me back into second level when you're in Dublin, Ireland. So you grew up in Dublin, you're in second level, which to those of us not from Ireland recognize that probably as secondary school, high school, however you want to call it. But
oh,
what's happening in your life at that point? What's going on? What are you thinking about?
I don't know. Did you want to go there? So yeah, okay. There were five of us kids. I was four out of five. Big sister, four boys. I was three out of four.
Okay.
And I have a tie that has black sheep on it. Okay. Um, most from when I was five to when I left high school, I was dropped off. Both my parents were from farms. My mother was a nurse. They had business, but eventually a bar manager. And I got dropped off. School ends on a Friday. Saturday, I'm down on my aunt and uncle's farm, milking cows, bringing in the hay, and walking the greyhounds and slopping out from the pigs. And school started on a Monday, and I brought back on a Sunday, the odd time on a Saturday. So, I mean, I love that. I've got two families. I got my country cousins, I called. So I was very fortunate to, and they didn't have actually running water till I was 16. So we won't talk about all that. But so I was very fortunate to have the best of both worlds in my eyes. School to me, and part of, I would say, our success, the course I teach with my new partner now for 3 years, Brendan retired. It's the January will be our 23rd year. And so we say the Rotman School of Management, University of Toronto, we're Rotman's longest running, and I'm bragging, I apologize, most awarded elective MBA course. So it's elective. They have to bid for it, right? Not
Right.
too many last 23 years.
Right.
And the reason is I hated high school. If I was here, I'd be a high school dropout. I was kicked out of 3 out of 6 classes by March of my final year. But it's standardized testing. The Department of Education sent me my please turn up at my school, different invigilators, and I got kicked out. And let's put it this way, there's culpability on both parts because I never got reported to the principal. My parents never knew about it. And I studied by myself and I went to school every day, attended some classes, didn't. And I actually got, I got enough points to be accepted for the 2 big universities in Ireland, Trinity College Dublin, University College Dublin, for Bachelor of Science. And Mammy says, which one are you on to? And I says, none of them. I'm not spending another 4 years listening to some whatever. Okay, I've been trying to be polite here. And Mammy looked at me and goes, I said, Daddy can get me a job in the bar. She looked at me and goes, yeah, right. Okay, well, she didn't even say that. I go, that's not happening. My brother had a girlfriend at the time who knew somebody who was looking for an afternoon clerk for accounting. We were streamed. I was in the B class. C's and D's did accounting. I didn't know what accounting was.
Right.
Anyway, I asked what's involved. 5 years there to go. What's that? What's like an apprenticeship? Sure. And what's the study in it? You do a 9-month college course. So I said, okay, keep Mammy happy. I'll do it. Knew nothing about accounting. And then I ended up in accounting as like, whatever. I didn't know, but seemed I'm good at numbers. And out of 105 of us, well, I don't know, 5 of us had to get special permission because we weren't within a year of the end of our 5 years articles because we sat the 4 exams. You sit the first one, and then our peers were the 3 and 4 year BCom people, foundation 2, and then professional 1, and then the FAE. And I was fortunate. You can't do it anymore. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm bragging, but it was, and my mother couldn't believe it. My mother thought that, oh my God, he hasn't hope because she knew friends whose kids hadn't. Anyway, and the pass rate in 1979 in Ireland, they used to control it like the lawyers did it as well. Pass rate was 24.3% because that was the number, X number were applying, and we only need so many of them, and they cut it off. Anyway, I passed my FAE at 21. Now, I didn't become an accountant until I was 22 or 3. But so that's so tough. So and what comes to it is, so the teaching when I designed and at Western, I got into shit like one summer, 3 years in, my advisor says, who was a sailor up in Lake Huron, he says, I'm back in town. John, I need to see you urgently. And I go, oh my God, what did I do? Here to pick up something for the office. See me at 3 o'clock. Don't be late. I said, hey, John, how's the sailing going? Stop this. What's this? And it was the transcript for the courses I was taking about, theory of adult education, curriculum design, practice of teaching, all this type of stuff. And I says, well, I want to teach. And he says, John, publish or perish. Forget about the students. And for 5 years that I was there, about 15 at the time, PhD students across the different areas. So say a cohort of 75, there was me and one other lady, whoever took those courses. So you see, teaching to me, I'm passionate about it. And I took all that, and that's why I'm not, the publisher perish, I did that crap, but it was, but to this day is when I teach, you see, I teach for that asshole called John O'Dwyer. I can keep his attention.
Right.
I don't have to worry about the rest.
Right. Because you're the hardest one to keep. You're the hardest one to keep your own attention.
Yeah, they'd be giving me Ritalin if they had it in my day. Yeah, I'm showing my age, right? You know what I mean? And that's to me, it's a failure of the people in the front of the room. And sorry, you got me on you shouldn't have asked me that question.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll go off in another direction. But so you get your accounting degree, or you get your accounting designation, and then you've done that for 5 years, so roughly 5 years, and so you've passed that. What? Give me a sense of the path that your journey took, without getting too stuck in the weeds on it, but just because I read your bio. I read your bio on the University of Toronto website. I've read it on LinkedIn. I've found your bio in terms of a more complex one, and I mean, you've done things like you sort of went up the scale. You worked at places like KPMG. I mean, like you took this what apparently is someone who is a little bit of a challenging student. You made your way through something, and then that you started leveraging that somehow. You started stair stepping that thing into the next thing, and then the next thing. So, give me a sense of that, at least just a general arc of the story from there. Where did you go in industry specifically before
Yeah,
you got back into education?
yeah, so okay, so and actually I was in a small firm, and actually it's interesting. I actually changed articles, which you couldn't really do that easy. I went to a medium firm, and then actually because it was three of us, and me and the boss didn't quite get on, and then after I left, I went back working for him after hours, and that we got on great. Okay, so it was just interesting, power dynamic, and then I went into medium firm, and then I went into actually the rag trade as a group accountant, and then I was in London from 80 to 82 for running the CFO for one of their subsidiaries there. And then I came from that to KPMG in corporate finance. And then out of that, I got recruited to set up a corporate finance company and then a venture capital company. And then we had an investment in an aviation services company here. And their present CEO got killed demonstrating a prototype aircraft down in Bogota, Colombia. And, I was on their board and I was a pain. But, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. So I landed in 87 in Canada, mainly to refinance it. And Black Monday 87 put this, you might be old enough for Black Monday 87, most people won't be. And then I had this objective of, by 30 to be president CEO of a company, have shareholding and all that type of good stuff. And I'd done that. Wasn't work much. And I said, okay, what am I going to do next? And because I'd worked at that stage from, basically from 18, I'd worked for 10 years. And accounting is beautiful, corporate finance. My abiding takeaway was organizations to this day fail to leverage their key asset, their human capital.
Mm.
And I was stupid. I didn't do my homework. So I picked, okay, what do I need to learn? Organizational behavior. I could have gone to Western at that stage. The finance people were able to get out in about 2.5 years if I joined finance, which I could have easily done. But idiot me is no, I want to learn about people. So it was a 5-year trip, which I loved. And that's what brought me into academia.
Okay.
Then I learned, it's publish or perish. And I did desk papers and articles and chapters and books and cases and all that type of stuff. And but I said, no, I want to make a difference on a day-to-day basis. I don't want to wait for the 2-year peer review and all that stuff. They now have, from about 2 years ago. So I was 25. I was at, what would you call it? Generation too soon. They now have teaching stream, but there's no one hiring an old fart like me in the teaching stream. But they now have what I would have been set up for. So I went out and worked as a consultant, and I'm still doing that to this day.
Got it. So you've got this journey which takes you through finance. Finance leads you to leadership in finance, private equity. Then you're on a board of a place. You actually then take over that company, but it's in that role that you went, I understand finance, but I don't understand people. Or did you understand people and just not know how to leverage it? Or what was the thing that really drove you to go do this study in organizational behavior? What was the thing missing in you that you felt like you needed to get?
It was more 10 years of work experience, and it would be more as the accountant, corporate finance, and seeing all the different corporations I'd work with, and saying, like, I'm not saying I was a great manager, but I don't know how many we had in the corporate finance company and venture capital company, but I think I had it up to 15 or something. It's still small. But I mean, I don't know that I don't know I was excellent, but I don't think I was disastrous. So it was more about helping other organizations. That I needed to learn more. And that's my problem. I'm still taking stupid courses. So on a practicum at 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock last night. It's more about, I needed to learn more about helping organizations with with how to leverage their people and helping their people be better. And it was, it's just a weakness I have is stupid curiosity. And I'm still taking stupid courses. I mean, why am I taking courses? Right?
Well, I think there's a weird bug that gets in certain people that they just can't help themselves, and I feel like I'm like you, that I can't stop myself. I buy books like stupid. I my book budget outperforms pretty much every other budget, more than computers, more than anything. I buy books, but I don't know. There's this really cool, I think, that I just see in people like you, which is this insatiableness, which is you get it and you just want a bit more, and you go for another thing and you get
Yeah.
another thing. And Frick, I noticed on your, like, when I looked at some of your bio stuff, and I start noticing the certifications that you, not just your PhD and your MBA, it's like 800 certifications that follow your name, which is quite, it's both admirable and it's also crazy, and you're a little bit of both, I sense.
It's no, I keep on. It's like stupid is what it is, but I can't. It's if I have an addiction, yeah, it's I need to get another. I put something on LinkedIn. Yeah, got this other certification. Because I needed more letters after my name, right?
Right. Well, let's go back, because you hinted at it, and because a lot of people who might listen to this may not know your connection with the Rotman School of Management at University of Toronto. But you mentioned this course that you run. It's the highest awarded, longest running elective MBA course at the school. I've read some of the reviews of that in preparing for our conversation today, but um, tell me a little bit more, just generally, about the nature of that course and why you think it's actually been the longest running, most attended. You hinted at it, which is you're trying to keep you personally, like you're the student in this class, and you're trying to keep yourself engaged. So I get that part of it, but why else do you think this particular course? Give us a sense of it and why it is so attractive to people.
Well, it is. You see, it's called Getting It Done.
Okay.
Right? And here's let me tell you where it came from. So my previous teaching partner, Brendan, who's retired, he's now Professor Emeritus at the University of Toronto. He was managing director for a time for the MBA full-time program. And a number of students came to him and said, Brendan, where at the Rotman School of Management do we learn about management? And he says, you got strategy, you got operations, you got finance, you got organization behavior, you got whatever, you got this
Right.
all. And they says, yes, Brendan, but where do we learn how to get it done?
Uh,
So,
uh,
of course,
okay.
that was it. Brendan and I know each other going, we'd done motorcycle trips together and things like that. And he was a client, and, me and my previous business partner, we said, hey, open source, we give away, the course gives away our IP, what you would say, right? That says, here's a management system, right? In the centers, what's your purpose, what's your vision, what's your values. Now, what's your strategy? Then how do you deploy it and get alignment?
Mm,
Then how do you manage your results, checkpoints, course corrections, and then continuous improvement? How do you stay best in class? And it's a comprehensive management system. And it's a doing course, not a memorizing course. It's what would be called, from an academic perspective, active learning. And it's been that since day one. And from about, I think, 10 years ago, when simulations appeared, and I'll tell you, the first one we used was a disaster. But anyway, there's some great now management simulations. So
right.
we got 30 students, 6 teams of 5, and they start off on day one. They have to come up with the name for the business, how they're going to compete. So we put them in a pressure cooker, I would say. Well, hopefully the students aren't listening, flipping away. Oh, no, they know. We put them in a pressure cooker, and they're running a business, and they have basically every 2 days, or sometimes one day, it's a quarter results for the business type thing. And we don't bring them through to the full 2 year thing, but it is based on the concept of team formation, right? The
Mm,
model of forming, storming, forming, performing. And so the design is Monday, Tuesday. It's a 10-day intensive, Monday to Friday each day.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they're in the forming and storing. Thursday and Friday, we do interventions. And
Mm-hmm.
then they have Monday and Tuesday and to finish off. And basically, and it's, they go through it and, you know, they bitch and complain.
Why
Start.
did I buy this course?
Yeah. And
Because
but it's
executive
not,
MBA courses at Rotman are not inexpensive.
well, it was, but the thing is then, I mean, and I'm bragging, last January this year, we got, you know, they changed the rating, but we got, the previous year, we got 6.7 on a scale of 7, which we thought was a record. At this year, they changed it. I didn't know. Anyway, and we got 5.5 out of 5.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
but the thing is, when they get to the Wednesday, Thursday,
Mm.
the whole system comes together because they've gone through, because we, you know, we bring them through the whole manual. And at the end of the day, the light bulb goes on and they go, holy shit. Okay. I get what those assholes were trying to get me to learn. Okay. And, yeah,
Mm.
you know, so it's a system,
Yep.
and it's active learning. It's doing, you see.
Right. Right.
And like even in the class, our system is, hey, we talk for a little bit. Then there's individual work, self-reflection. Then there's teamwork. Then there's class discussion, and moving on. We are not, you know, forever we said, we're not the sage on the stage.
Yeah.
We're your guide on the side. Okay.
Mm.
So, you know, we're, you know, it's active learning. You know, Kelly and I is, you know, my new one. If you know, we're earlier on this morning, go, oh, we're talking 15 minutes. That's way too friggin' long. Okay. Well, the word shut his mind off. Okay.
Right. 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 So this course, there's an active learning component, but if you're open to it, I read some of the course syllabus that I found at the Rotman School, and there's these 4 categories that you talk about in the course syllabus, and I know you've just given us some of the context of how you teach it and some of the structure of it, but there's these 4 core concepts you talk about: strategic choice, organizational alignment,
Yep.
managing for results, and continuous improvement. Those seem to be the 4 that I pulled out, and I may be wrong on that, so correct me if I'm wrong. But how can you kind of unpack those 4 things? Because I feel like you're a teacher and you're often on the side instead on the stage. But I just want you to unpack those 4 things and why they matter in management specifically, as opposed to organizational design, strategic thinking. But those 4 things: strategic choice, organizational alignment, kind of unpack those for me in a few minutes.
Well, no, what let me go was in the middle, though, is your purpose, vision, and values. And that to me is huge.
Okay.
People, I think it's Daniel Pink, whatever, motivation 3.0. The young kids, that could be anybody under 50 for me. But anyway, it is, they want autonomy, mastery, and purpose.
Yep.
So, as I say, with the, you know, the nonprofits of volunteer for, they're so clear about windmill microlending. The purpose is so potential prosperity. There's no, it's one of those ones. Yes, I'd be proud to wear it on my t-shirt.
Mm,
Right.
right.
Okay. And then the mastery is, they say people aren't as loyal to organizations, but loyal to their careers. Are you helping them grow and develop?
Mm,
Right. And then the other one is autonomy. You're hiring adults, which you give them role clarity and accountability, give them resources and get out of the bloody way, but be there to coach and mentor. But anyway, the purpose is in the center. And then out of the purpose and the vision is, and so on the strategy, we use Roger Martin's as a past dean. Says, what's our winning aspiration? Right? Which should tie to the vision. Is, you know, what's our, you know, our winning aspiration as an organization? Okay. And out of that then is, okay, here's where we want to be, depending where you want to go, 3-5 years. And out of that, okay, what's our strategy to get there? And then the key bit then is, okay, what do we got to deliver as an organization for the next fiscal year? So
mm,
you take that one step on the 3-year or 5-year journey. And once you have that, how do you communicate that down to your people? And how do
right.
you get everybody use triangles? How do you get everybody aligned? Right. So it's a deployment process, right? Which gets you the alignment. And then it is, okay, and we use a thing called a performance agreement. You know, the other word, They plagiarized us. They came after us, actually, Kaplan and Norton, the scorecard. Performance agreement goes back to 1974. Dr. Bill Redden, but we won't argue about it, but it is, here's your performance agreement, and they're all aligned. The triangles are all aligned. And so that actually, the receptionist guy knows, here's what I'm doing, here's what my boss is doing, here's what our department's doing, here's where the organizer is going. So that's the key thing about alignment. They know how they contribute. And then they have checkpoint processes, which are results management. They can call it performance management. We refer results management. It's about outputs. I don't care if you're in sales, I don't care if you turn up 5 days a week, as long as you hit your targets. And I've known people who could do that on the golf course in 3 days. God bless. Right. Don't play golf. And then continuous improvement is how we stay in best in class and ahead of the competition. So, what's your strategy? What's your vision first? Your winning aspiration, your strategy, deploy it down. Everybody's aligned. We're checkpointing along the way, doing course corrections because shit happens, right?
Yep.
And then we're staying best in class. And so it's, with the I got organizations I work with. I'll be in Chicago in July for 2 days, and I'll be with our same organization in November for 2 days, because it's an annual cycle, and that's the discipline of execution. The discipline of execution. You put it in the bloody calendar a year in advance. Everybody knows. We know what's happening, for Christ's sake. It's like if you're, and there was in a public quoted company, you knew when you had to get the London Stock Exchange. We knew when we had to get our stuff into the London Stock Exchange. Why wouldn't it be in the bloody calendar? As I was saying, with a management system, why wouldn't you have it in the bloody calendar? Laziness, lack of discipline.
Right.
Sorry.
So there's a cadence to the system that's really important too.
Yeah. I got one client, Tim. Actually, he's the guy in Chicago. He's CFO. I've been through 4 Fortune 100 companies with him, and every time he brings me in, this is John O'Dwyer. He's not everybody's cup of tea, but he's my cup of tea. He's a management system. There's other management systems there. It works for me. You'll get used to him, and you get used to the system, and that's what we're doing. All right. So,
Well, you have an affinity, obviously, to some of your your peers from Rotman, but you talk a little bit about Bill Redden, and I went in preparation. I've read Bill Redden before, but
you have.
Yeah, but you mentioned at one point, and it's not in your course curriculum, it's somewhere else I find this, which is managing of others is self-management. And how do you see that line that Bill Redden delivered, managing of others is self-management, because it ties back to your own rhythms and cadences in terms of running a business, that's management side of things. What's your take on Bill's statement in that case?
And actually, I tend to turn it around because it confuses some people. And I say, if you can't manage yourself, you can't manage others.
Right.
So,
and so where do you see
people? From the other, he was taken from the results end. And,
right.
and I go, and like yesterday, and I say to people, listen, be the leader you would like to work for.
Right.
Well, no, how many people do that?
Yeah.
I call
it's kind of like be the teacher.
Mirror test. Look in the mirror and say, "Oh shit, I shouldn't have done that." Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of it aligns with your philosophy of teaching, which is be the teacher that I would listen to. Yes.
I haven't verbalized it or thought it like that, but yes, now that you say it, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Actually, yeah.
Yeah. So because you've said this, you teach, and I realize you teach collaboratively in teams and things like that, but you've done this for a long time, and you coach, you advise, you consult in a lot of different business scenarios, from micro businesses right up to large publicly traded companies. So what's the thing that you're seeing right now where CEOs, C-suite are struggling the most in today's world right now? What are you hearing from them? What are you observing in them that they might not even know is happening? But what's the thing that's the most challenging for them right now?
It's it's been the same, I think, forever. And you see, I gotta say it, and I'm obviously very biased and very opinionated.
Yep.
I'm going to say 20th century was called human resource management. And I don't like the word resources because we deplete them. In the 21st century, and there is stuff that the New York Stock Exchange is at HCM, human capital management, and you invest in capital. And organizations now, their biggest challenge, I would say, without exception, it'll always be in the top three. Doesn't matter what, will be people. And we had a president CEO of a $6 billion company talk to us a week ago, and he was asked, what's the one thing that keeps you awake at night? People.
Yep. Yep.
Human capital. It's that's your resource. It doesn't matter whether you're Ford running a plant, right? Doesn't matter what you do. It's your people. You're only as good as your people. And so it's human capital management. And that's why I wanted to do OV. And okay, now that I'm sort of trying to return that, yeah, they get it now. I saw it 30 friggin' years ago. I'm saying I was ahead of that. I was a freaking generation too bloody early. It's like, but anyway, I'm having fun now.
Okay, so
I'm having fun on this one, okay?
Yeah, but human capital management is this big thing. It's this big amorphous mass of stuff, and it's critical. But are there any specific nuances to that you're seeing?
That's the problem. You say, I don't agree with that. No.
Okay.
My one is, and I say, forget about, I said that yesterday, forget about the legal implications. And the council guy goes, what? It says, if you have people reporting to you and if you hire people, because it's at every level in the organization, that's not a big amorphous thing.
Yep.
It's
okay.
a culture and a value and a concept that says, hey, you have an ethical and moral responsibility to help that person be the best they can be, to inspire them to perform beyond their own expectations. Don't care whether you're a leader or manager. That is an ethical and moral responsibility. And if everybody who had people reporting to them did that from the top to the bottom, the fucking world would be a better place. Excuse my language. That's Irish. English Irish.
Yes, the Irish came out there in a really profoundly cool way. So
sorry.
So no, it's beautiful. It's and I think it's,
you know what I'm saying though. It's
yes.
Like people should come in to work with a smile on their face, and more importantly, you should leave with a smile on their face. And it doesn't matter what level of the organization they're at. And we had middle managers yesterday were saying, forget about up there.
Yeah,
you can inspire your people, right? And one of the exercises was, what's your winning aspiration for your department? And I did this with we did this with another organization, and it was a financial institution, big bloody bloke, whatever, right? And that marketing person was, hey, we're going to be the industry leader for social media presence in our industry. There are people where I'm telling you, they're going, holy shit, I'm with that. Like they got, because they're marketing, they got mugs made and they got t-shirts and everything, right? You know what I'm saying? But
right.
You can inspire your people. You should inspire your people to perform beyond their expectations. That's the job of anybody who hires somebody or has somebody reporting into them, period. And it's not a big mess. It has to be passed all the way down from the top to the bottom. And the problem is the fish rots from the bloody head down, and that's what's the lack of goddamn leadership of it is the problem. Excuse me.
No, I got it. So if human capital management is the biggest issue and it's really clear what it is to do and it's a leadership down thing, what's the you've delivered it. Like, it's my job as a leader anywhere I am in the organization to make it my prime responsibility to make sure the people who work for me show up and have a better life, are excited to show up. All of that is critical to I think keeping people around, because that seems to be a challenge right now, which is people are just bolting. They because if they don't like the fact that you're a crappy leader, they're walking now. They're not staying like they used to.
No, there's many reasons people leave, but one of the consistent one, and depending on what, I'll give you the conservative answer.
Yep.
50% of the people in their lives have left the job because they're working for an asshole. One reason.
Right.
right? Okay,
Yes.
people don't tend to leave organizations; they leave the idiot they're working for.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
And I've seen it even recently. I'm going, who? How the hell is he still in his job? There's still dysfunction going on that you think in this day and age, it just frustrates me. I just, you know, I'm sorry. I,
No,
as I get older and getting less patient and less like I'm becoming more of an asshole myself. Okay.
so the challenge I hear you raising is that the average leader doesn't actually recognize that they're the problem,
Yeah.
right? Because a lot of them are sitting looking at their team and going, you know, you don't think like I do, you don't act like I do, you're not as smart as I am, you're not as motivated as I am, because that's language I hear a lot. And what you're saying is the mirror is the place you have to look if you're going to change this thing.
Well, actually, you see, I'll actually go on a different tack in this one. It's the Peter principle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which was Captain Peters.
Yep.
Um, you get promoted to your level of confidence. I actually
Yes.
don't agree with that.
Okay.
That you see to me is a lack of leadership. People get promoted because they're experts. And actually Simon Sinek has a great one on this from management to leaders. They get promoted because they're good at their job. And then they're put into a position, right, where they're in charge of people, right? And they have to move from being the expert on the job. And as he would say, instead of being in charge, you need to take care of the people in your charge. And its organizations do not train people and develop people. They promote them not to their level of competence, to promote them into a position and don't train them to be confident in that position. So, and I've had it over the
Mm.
years, somebody will say to me, we have a problem with that person. I will always have, for decades, I said, who does that person report into? Why are you asking? Where's the authority in the relationship? That's the person's the problem, not the person. And I was in the Army Reserves, okay, exalted rank earned of corporal, but it is, you don't blame the private, you blame the people at the next level up. And
Right.
so that's a failure you see of organizations is they promote people and then they don't provide them the training and support so they can develop and adjust from being the one doing the job to being in charge of the people, taking care of the people in their charge doing the job. Does that make
Yes.
sense?
Yeah. Well, it makes complete sense, and it's I've seen it a lot I mean in many places, but I what rises to mind for me immediately is salespeople who are really good at
Yeah.
sales become sales managers, but the sales management job is not being the best salesperson. The sales management job has a completely different
Yeah.
function, set of directives to it than being a salesperson. And if you just try and act more like you were, but that doesn't work either. And sales management people get either quit or get fired frequently, but they didn't get trained to be a sales manager. They were elevated from being really good at what they did into a role that they didn't learn how to do.
Well, no, but you see, and that's more, I'm going to say that's more historical, that the new ones wouldn't do that. And I say, I mentioned earlier on, if you're a salesperson and you spend 5 days on the week of golfing and you still get turning your numbers, I don't give a rat's ass. And I knew a couple of people, one in telecoms and one in pharmaceuticals, and those who, I don't know if they ever worked a day in their life, but they were taken out of the sales competition because they always would it, and they were offered management positions. And they says, "You got to be joking me! I don't want that. I would be no good at it." So
Right.
more and more people, they're saying, "No, I don't want to lead.
Yeah.
I
Right.
know what I'm good at." And
Yeah.
I did like dissertations, law firm mergers, and professional managers of professional service firms. Rainmakers are the ones that are the important people there, but actually most of them couldn't manage a piss up in a brewery, but they can sell. Okay, so
Right.
it's different. But then you don't get respect in the professional service firm if you're not a rainmaker. So they have a whole conflicting goddamn. Okay, won't go there. Professional service firms was a speciality of mine, but anyway.
Okay. Wow. Another thing I didn't know about you. So this show is actually about advisory boards. So
Yeah,
let's
okay.
pivot a little bit.
Please, please.
So you I based on what I see, you both sat on advisory boards. You sit on governance boards. You're both in not-for-profit and for-profit
Right.
companies. Um, Give me some of your experience of what you've seen, and as raw and unfiltered as you've been so far, give it to me more. Where do you see the challenges with advisory boards and governance boards? Where do you see people screwing up in that environment? Where do you feel like you're seeing successes?
Well, you see, way back in Ireland and in Europe, advisory boards have been around for decades.
Yep.
The German companies in particular are good at because they got lots of family ones. And the thing about it is and I was when I was working in venture capital in Ireland, I was on, I don't know, half dozen. And part of it was the advisory board doesn't have legal liability.
Right.
Right. So I mean here, and when I went back to school, I stayed on the board of the company I was president CEO. I said, hey, I fired that asshole president CEO. That was me. Okay. I promoted my VP engineer, but I stayed around for a few years. But you have liability if taxes aren't paid and payroll isn't paid.
Right.
So the beauty of an advisory board, it comes without the legal liability, but you get all the advice. And so, yeah, actually, one of the things you probably didn't know, I actually, it was one of my failed ventures, was I tried to set up take an American French like tech TEC and those. Anyway, it didn't work for me. But I totally believe the concept of having it's lonely at the top and having outside advisors is huge. You see, and it's for like the whole concept of YPO, Young Presence Organization. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the whole concept.
Right.
But not everybody's at that level of revenues and things to do it. So advisory boards are huge. It's not just as lonely at the top. It's good to have people with diverse backgrounds that you can use as a sounding board. I mean, I say I was on one because I was young, as I said, like 23 or something. Okay, wasn't much use maybe, but anyway. But yes, I mean, but it's having. I could do the numbers though. I could do the numbers, right? So it's having a board of advisors. One, it's people to talk to because you can't talk to your direct reports the same way,
Yes.
right? And so, to me, an advisory board, um, everybody should have any president CEO, should have an advisory board. I would say.
Yeah. So when they at least from your perspective and what you've seen and what you've experienced, is because as you've talked about it there's an element in there which is more the communication between a CEO and this group of people, but
Right.
the function of a board, especially an advisory board, when it's not a legal liability system and it's thinking partners, it's
Yeah.
pushing you on things, it's giving perspective, but um, there's the one-on-one interaction, but there's the value of the group sitting together and being involved. How have you seen that distinction between one-to-one interaction with your advisors versus the group dynamic?
Oh no, to me, it's always the group, right? There's enough research on that. As diverse mindsets will come up with a better solution.
Ah, okay.
It's the old hold on. It's the old that I've seen President CEO do it. It's bullshit. It's called the hub and spoke. I'm in the middle, and I'm going out spoke one at a time, right?
Mm.
I mean, you end up in silos. You end up with crap. No, you need to bring the diverse viewpoints together. Bring the wheel together. Don't be going out on the spoke. Bring the wheel together because, I mean, I'm sure, Tom, you and I, the president CEO came to us and we were the advisory board. They said something to us. You'd probably say one thing and I go, well, that's usually the way I go, oh, I didn't think of that. But now that you say that, how about this? And then you would go, okay, now how about this? And then we'd have other people there. No, it is the power of a diverse group bringing that diversity. It's proven. I could give you the research of what I'm looking for you. This is
Yeah.
this is like freaking management 101. Okay.
No, it's such an important distinction because I think so often, and Europe has had a long history of more formal advisory boards. I feel like North America, as I, dig into this, I realize North America tends to have this more ad hoc, um, hub and spoke model of advisory boards. And many people in the that I've seen, many people in North America tend to have an advisory board just because they want those names sitting in their on their
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
But they're not functionally and effective. And sometimes there is that hub and spoke thing. But I agree completely that what you miss is this really incredible conversation that sparks better results from the
Yeah,
conversation that happens in a group environment where the CEO is present to give, I got this challenge, I got this problem, I got this thing we're trying to
great.
accomplish in the world. And this group of people who are bright, intelligent, experienced rub off of each other. And I don't know, it feels like that kind of old model of, when you rub, a couple of old pieces of wood together, you get flame. And sometimes I think the missing piece is what you just said there. The hub and spoke model is flawed when we think of advisory boards that way.
No, it's not. It's not that it's flawed. It sucks. It shouldn't be used. It's not a model, for Christ's sake. It's bankrupt. Jesus Christ. Okay,
Uh,
but
John, I love it.
that's in my humble opinion. Okay.
Yeah, I love it. I love your humble opinion on this. So you sit on an advisory board. Let's kind of come back with a slightly different. You're sitting on an advisory board. What's the sort of superpower you bring? So if I invite you onto an advisory board and you're sitting there, what's the thing that you're processing all the time? What's the point of view you have, or the way you see around walls that nobody else does typically? What's your thing? Is it organizational stuff? Is it people? What's the thing that you kind of you can't help yourself but get snarky about in these meetings?
Well, no, actually, it's it's interesting. When I did my PhD at Western, we had to take their first year strategy course because they were known for strategy. Okay, um, and after I think the first week or two, after a few classes, the prof came up to me and said, "John, okay," or he says, hold back after class." And I said, "Yeah, I wonder what the hell did I do?" And he says, "Okay, you got your 6 out of 6 for participation. Now shut up unless I ask you." And I go, "Well, what did I do wrong?" And it was, I would do my homework always, always come prepared to meetings. I'd read every damn thing going, right? And I would come in never with the best answer. But then somebody would say something, somebody would say something, somebody would say something. I go, "Oh, take that. Oh, screw that, and change my answer." And so, whatever, maybe it was 45 minutes into a 90-minute class, I'd put my hand up and give my solution. And that's what the prof didn't like it. So he says, you're coming to it too soon. I need to work the class. Okay, because case study stuff.
Right.
And so I'm never the smartest person in the room. Believe it or not, actually, I can shut up and listen. And so I listen for the other perspectives that add to mine, because I never have the right, I never have the best answer.
Mm.
So it's basically shut up and listen. Now, if you said that to my wife, she'd go, "Yeah, right." But anyway, it's shut up
We're
and
not
listen.
telling her you did this podcast because
Yeah,
we don't want
but
to create
but
marital strife.
shut up and listen and be open to, that's what I'm saying, the diversity of thought that you go, like my one is, "Damn, I didn't think of that. Jesus, I didn't think of that one either. Wow, I'm slow." Okay, but hold on. If I put that, I did think of that though. They didn't think of that. And I put that and that together,
Ah,
connect the dots.
yeah,
So
yeah.
just it's shut up and listen, and
Mm.
and connect dots.
Got it. Got
That's
it.
the, I mean, that's the whole thing, is about the diversity of thought. And here's one of the ones I'll give you, Tom, and it sounds counterintuitive, you see, is particularly because I've worked with a lot of founders, family, bringing in COOs and that, and it's what it is you need people, and you need people with such a strong ego. They have no ego needs. So I don't give a
Mm.
rat's off if it's my decision or not. It's what's right for the organization, what's right for the company, right? I don't have to be, I don't give a rat's ass at this stage of my life. I don't give a rat's ass. You know, just leave me out of it. Okay. But here, did you think of this? Okay. And so I don't need my name anywhere.
So I just want to repeat that because you illustrated it, but I just want to make sure I got the point. It's really important to have a board around you, an advisory board around you that has strong egos with no ego needs. That's what you said. Yeah.
I say it's Lencioni talks about employing people that should be humble, hungry, and smart. Humble, hungry is always learning, open to learning, and smart is they're actually good at interpersonal skills. Right? And I would say you want people who are humble. It's not about them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Hungry. They want to learn more and they want to learn from each other. Like the ones I'm on, I go, wow. I got one I'm on and I go, oh, I want to really learn from her because she's in a neat place. I can learn there. Right. And then smart is interpersonal skills, EQ and that. So that's what I would say. And hey, listen, I'm still not there. I'm still an asshole. Okay. But, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. Okay.
Well, I think we're all a work in progress, and I'm appreciative of the fact that you're humble enough to say that with the strong ego that you possess, which is great. So this has been really helpful, and I feel like you and I could go probably another 3 hours, but we've already almost completed an hour. So so thank you for all of that. I'd like to end our conversations with just some random crazy questions that I hope will kind of
Well, then that's dangerous when you're talking to a crazy man.
Oh, I know, and I'm fearing the questions I prepared for you, but we'll go with them anyways. So, you are a self-described bon vivant, and so what would others describe as the part of you that most fits that specific billing? Because that has a lot of connotation to it. But if not yourself, but if somebody else, people who are close to you, said, "Oh, this is why he's that," what would they say?
And actually, it goes back to when one year I had to go to my my father's big brothers, the father's farm, and Martin, they had no kids. I was 12 years old, and Martin, the son of the farmer, said, "John, you're as useful as tits in a bowl, but you're fun. Get on the tractor. We're going to the pub." And I was on the subway here going downtown, and I met the wife of, I was crew for a guy here at Mimico, and he was without crew, and I'm like definitely as useful as tits in the boat, crewing, right? But anyway, and his wife said, "Will had a great time. He had so much fun that night," and yeah, when I do other stuff, people just say, "Yeah, he might be as useful as tits in a bowl. He's fun to have around." I don't know.
Got it.
Right? So that's confidant is enjoy life for Christ's sake. Okay.
Yes, enjoy life.
Yeah.
All right. Second question. You can only do one of these. Life has handed you sort of, lemons, and you've got to choose one of the two: flying or sailing. Which one do you keep, and which one do you give up? Because you got to give up one of them.
Oh, that's a nasty one. Jesus, that's not fair. I'm going to say, actually, you know what? I'm going to do it from an economic perspective.
Okay.
Boats are a lot cheaper than planes.
Right. All right.
Okay,
That's enough said. I don't want to get into the weeds, but I know you love sailing and you love flying.
The boat is a hole in the water that you throw money into, but compared to planes, it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pocket change.
Yeah.
What's the best of these three brands? Tealing, Green Spot, or Redbreast?
Hold on, say that again.
Tealing, Green Spot, or Redbreast?
I don't even recognize the first two. Well, what are they?
They're Irish whiskeys.
Oh, I'm not an Irish whiskey person. So, okay, so hold on. Tealings.
Tealing, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Tealing. Okay, what's the second one?
Green Spot.
Now, forget that. Okay, it'd be between Redbreast and Tealings. I actually going because I took a tour of Tealings. I'm going to say Tealings.
Got it. All right. What was the first question you asked ChatGPT?
Oh, God. Actually, how about the first useful one I did, where I coach Indigenous people, whatever, And by the way, I'm going to Cree Nation of Wominji on Sunday for a week.
Wow.
Volunteering. But anyway, I put in a job posting and said, write a cover letter for this job posting, and then cut and post it and gave it to the person, and she looked at it and goes, "Wow." And she probably wouldn't have applied, but it did 90% of it. And she's on her second she passed her second, well, she's had her second interview.
Oh, that's wonderful. What's a strongly held belief you've changed your mind on in the last year? Something that you believe strongly and fought for and crusaded for, but now you've changed your mind.
How about this? I resigned from the board of Sail Canada. Sail Canada is Canada's national sailing authority. So I resigned from the board. So that was a change of mind.
Okay. But was it a belief change? Was it, or it was just a decision internally that you decided you needed to make? And you don't have to answer the question.
It was what I'll say to anybody. You got to be true to your beliefs, to your values. You have to be your authentic self. And if you're not comfortable with what's been done, you have to make a decision. It wasn't easy. Okay.
Got it. Perfect. How would your closest family members, and maybe I'm talking about your cousins from Ireland, as opposed to your wife, how would they define what you actually do?
They wouldn't. I've got like 15 nieces and nephews, and they would be, and the cousins would be. John's just the mad uncle, and we have one.
So they won't even describe what you do. He's just the mad uncle.
Yeah, it was my brother. I had COVID. I wasn't able to get to my niece's wedding. Got COVID 3 days before, and after you saying, yeah, my daughter gets up and says her favorite drink in Perkman is Uncle John.
Oh, that's hilarious. Well, so cool. My final question for you, because you're well read, you're curious like crazy. What's the book that has shaped you more than any other? If you could point to one book that has had an irrationally big impact on you, what would that be? And I realize there's millions, because I know you're a big reader, but what one book might you consider nudges out the others in terms of its influence on your life, your thinking?
I'd say Republic by Plato.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it still applies now.
Hmm.
It'll never be implemented. But you look at what he was proposing. I mean, you couldn't do it, but you look at what in a utopian. Well, no. I mean, it's not that I necessarily agree with it, but it's just a challenge, and it is. Yeah, it tries to describe a utopia, but it's human nature will never be able to step up to and meet the requirements.
And so within that, for you, in terms of why it has influenced you, is it that thing in you that longs for something that's impossible to achieve? What's the drawing card for you in that that unattainable thing?
It's about we've always got to improve. It can't. The part of my problem was I could never accept the status quo. I mean, I wish I could. Life would be a lot easier. I wouldn't be keeping on challenging and getting in trouble and shit. It's just like, but I can't. When I see shit, it's like I have a low boredom threshold. I have a low patience threshold, and it's just there's something that we should aspire to.
Yeah,
and there's maybe it's just the desire to, but it's a desire to we can always improve,
right.
And people to accept the status quo and not try to improve just pisses me off. It's not a good use of human spirit and that, and we should all be. Yeah, and I have a new book that's coming out. The The intergalactic golden teapot.
That's the intergalactic golden teapot.
Fate.
Mm.
It's a fate document.
Mm. Well, so when is this launching so that we can connect to it?
I actually finished the draft of it at 2:00 this morning.
Oh,
I need people. I need somebody to do some illustrations for it, and it's basically actually based on the idea came from Bertrand Russell, who was an English mathematician and philosopher who talked about the teapot, right? And it's basically it's a philosophical thing that says, here's my fate. That's about love, not judge. And then if you come into conflict, you sit down and have a cup of, right? A cup of, no fighting. And so, whether you're a Klingon, whether you're whatever the Ewoks, you're Russian, you're Mexican, have your cup of it and sit down. And so there's no conflict. We sit down, and and I'm just saying, my fate is as provable. And then I have also reviews from Roman Catholics, Jews, Muslims, agnostics, and they all agree that it wouldn't be what we would do, but the basic tenets are the same, and it's just how my faith doesn't kill people.
Right. Yeah.
It's a setup, okay? It's stirring it. This is
Yeah. Well, really,
the other thing is, Tom. Yeah, the other thing people would say, John is a stirrer. He stirs.
Yes, he's definitely a stirrer, and I have to say, as we come to the end of this, thank you for stirring the pot today. Doc John, you're a hoot and a challenge and a all of the above, and it's been an absolute delight to talk to you today and get your wisdom, get your insight, get your anger, get your frustration, and have it all, because it's all good. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for having me. But yeah, sorry, I get a bit passionate.